still have a note.
Oh.
All right. Try not to have that. Not look at, but it is all right. Okay. The meeting has been live streamed. Got it. And I think we should start now. And then the Brenda, when you start, you can tell.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm going to start now. So 3 seconds counting down. 3, 2, 1. Action.
Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's discussion on VCE chemistry. My name is Emma. I'm the VCE course consultant here at QS School, and I'm very delighted to be your host for this exciting conversation with our distinguished guests. So tonight we have with us Yan, our very experienced VCE chemistry teacher, and we also have Jason, who is a VCE science tutor at QS School, supporting Yan's chemistry class as well as VCE physics classes. And last but not least, we have Grace here. She graduated last year with a fantastic ATAR result, and she's also a QS tutor, but mainly supporting English classes. Right. So in the next coming hour, they will share the experience on VCE chemistry learning. And thank you for those who have already submitted your questions in the registration form. So we will go through them one by one in our session. And also, yeah, so if you come up with any other questions, feel free to leave them in the Q&A section in your Zoom. So we will go back to your questions at the end of the session. Right, so whether you're a VCE student who wants to excel this chemistry subject, or you're just simply interested in the topic and want to come and here explore things about chemistry, you're very welcome. And I think everyone will get many things out of this conversation. Right, so without further ado, let's get started. So first of all, just a quick introduction. So starting from Jason, please. Yeah.
Hello, my name's Jason, and I graduated last year in 2022 from Dongville Christian College. And currently I am doing a double degree engineering and IT at Monash University. I'm also working here in QS as a dedicated tutor for VCE science classes.
Grace.
Hi, my name is Grace. I graduated from Rice and Girls School last year. And now I go to Monash as well, doing law and arts, and I'm also an English tutor for VCE English at QS.
Yes, both of them doing double degrees, very hardworking students in Monash. Next.
Hi everyone, I'm Yan, sorry. I'm the teacher at QS, teaching VCE chemistry and some science prep classes. And also I've been teaching VCE chemistry units 1, 2, 3, 4 for the past few years, and also currently I'm doing IB chemistry as well.
Wow, yeah, definitely very experienced. And first of all, let's start from the very basic questions for Yan. What is VCE chemistry, and how are students assessed in this subject?
Well, assessing VCE chemistry is a very broad term. So, but understanding what chemistry at VCE level is, it's all involved around one word: energy. And also sustainability about societal progression is the key focus of how chemistry can improve and maximize the output of pretty much industrial production at a very sustainable level. So in Unit 3 chemistry, we do chemistry involving energy for non-living things, so vehicles, industrial production. How do we accelerate or optimize the rates of reaction and chemical equilibrium? And also in Unit 4, we do energy for humans, so living things, and we do lots of learning about. So that's a little bit of overlapping region with chemistry and biology in Unit 4, and also we'll do a lot more organic chemistry in terms of carbohydrates, fats and oils and proteins, and also the synthesis pathway of how some of the organic compounds are made. So that's the broad terms about, well, the overview about Unit 3-4 chemistry, but how are students assessed? So in a new study design about chemistry, At the moment, students are having 50% for their school SAC, for which will be weighed about 10% each. It depends on how the schools like to structure the SACs, but in total, all of the SACs at school will be completed at 50%, and students will be doing a 50% exam at the end of the year. So that's how everything will be structured. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you for a very detailed explanation and also covering all the main topics within VCE chemistry. And next question is, why is VCE chemistry a very popular subject? Because you in your class you got so many students right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I was reading this data yesterday that more female students are actually doing chemistry than males. So we have about 52% of the student population doing chemistry being girls, and the remaining of 48% being boys. And so one of the main reasons is that chemistry works as a prerequisite for most of the medical sciences that students may be interested in doing. And also lots of students are doing chemistry for the fun and for the practical component of chemistry. Definitely not writing prac reports, but the fun part about chemistry is that you can actually apply your learning to your actual real life context. Okay, so to look at how batteries are working, how does your fuel burn, and why would it be efficient using this versus that. So that's the application part of chemistry. And yeah, so that is built upon the students' knowledge and learning process during years of 7 to 10. Okay, before they have chosen to do VCE chemistry.
Thank you. So just one point you mentioned about chemistry being the prerequisite for many uni's majors. So I think that answers to Jason Holmes' question. He asked, is chemistry a compulsory subject for some certain majors in university like medicine? The answer is yes. So next question is, what study outcomes and abilities are expected from high achieving chemistry students? So if I want to do great in chemistry, what should I do? What should I achieve?
Well, from my observation, from the student who's next to me, they're extremely hardworking, and they are very, very strong in logical reasoning as well as critical thinking. So that's the key, not just about the content that you're understanding, but also be able to reason and express yourself. That is the other aspect of doing well in chemistry. So building that, you need to have a very strong literacy skills in that case of reading, understanding, and interpreting a question, but also responding using the right key terms. That is often what most students are differentiated upon. And also mathematical. You need to be quite mathematical in thinking and able, but also the math involved in chemistry, I would say it's close enough to further maths. It's nothing complicated. You don't do calculate, nothing like that. It's just really simple transformations of equations, converting, transposing fractions and all that.
Logical reasoning and some basic maths ability. How can students use their knowledge of VCE chemistry in their future studies or careers? I think you just touched upon about using the logical reasoning and selecting the correct terms for. Any other things you guys want to add up?
Your careers. I feel like even though I'm not doing like any sciences anymore, even just the mindset that chemistry kind of gives you, like you said, an analytical mindset has helped me even like in more humanities subjects, where you have to like look at cause and effect and analyze things very closely.
Jason?
Well, going to uni, I was actually quite surprised how much chemistry is required in engineering.
Really?
We had to use chemistry to manipulate properties of the things we use in our designs in order to get the desired outcome. So definitely year 12 chemistry comes in very handy in degrees outside of chemistry. So I think definitely a great subject to take.
Just adding on top of that, I went to a conference at the start of the year about how chemistry at VCE level can be applied and to future career aspects. And so currently Australia is harvesting lots of lithium at the moment. So we are one of the largest countries that have a huge amount of reservoir of lithium, and we are looking at building on farms and creation of 50,000 drops around chemical engineering at lithium making batteries. So that is what we see ourselves in the future of promoting a more of a renewable resource. I would say renewable, but lithium can actually be recycled. We haven't looked into that quite a lot yet, but that is our future in Australia, and how the government has planned to attract students at this time. So we want professionals, well, the countries wants professionals of 50,000 by about year of 2030. So if you are interested in doing just chemical engineering related aspect, that can be something that we are, you can think down the path.
Yeah, that's a very valuable information. Yeah. Our next question is about study designs. Are there any changes in chemistry study design in 2023? And also, do you have any predictions for future exams? Would be easier or harder?
Well, the shift about school sacks is now 50% from 40%, and the focus on the final year exam is now 50% instead of 60% as before. But also, let alone that, students at the current new study design needs to do a lot more writing and logical reasoning. Say, how do you best recycle metals such as lithium, aluminium, and how would you manage your disposal of waste? So that it will be the next focus, and we are looking at this thing called circular economy. So how do we source, how do we manufacture, how do we use, and then how do we actually dispose? So that goes as well. What we've done last year was about a linear economy, so we didn't do disposal at all. Yeah, but that is not the next focus for the current study design. And also prediction about exams. I always say that exams at chemistry is never hard.
Would you guys
but students don't agree. Well, it's about the attention to details, really, but the content-wise, you won't be tested out of the context too much. It will always be the question is written in a whole different way that may trick students, and therefore I said at the very start, your critical thinking and your ability to analyze a question is critical in this subject, but the basis of everything that you are going to do in your exams will stay the same. So it's all about, well, people at the end of the year exams will share quite a similar level of content knowledge. It's your way of approach that differentiates you from doing well.
Yeah, and attention to detail.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. So next question is for Grace and Jason. Why did you choose chemistry as your VCE subjects? And yeah, just this question.
I actually really liked year 10 science. I feel like we did a bunch of different topics, but chemistry was like the one that stuck out to me the most. And I knew that it was like a prerequisite for a lot of courses. And at that point in time, I had no idea what I wanted to do in university. So I wanted to keep my options open.
Definitely.
So kind of like maths methods, it's one of those subjects that, like, if you're not really sure about what to do, it's really good to do that subject. So then you have more options when you're thinking about what to do in university.
Yes, that's very important. So both methods and chemistry are two prerequisites for so many uni majors. So if you're not sure what you want to do in uni, choose these two. won't be bad. Yeah. How about you, Jay?
Yeah, my situation was quite similar to Grace in that, I enjoy STEM subjects, STEM being science, technology, engineering, mathematics subjects. And I wanted to keep my options open because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do in year 9, year 10. So then I just thought chemistry was a natural choice, being it being many prerequisites for many majors. So yeah, that's my big chemistry.
Yeah, so among our audience, we have many year 9, year 10 students. They are kind of struggling about choosing the VCE subjects. Do you have any tips for them?
Choosing VCE.
Yeah, choosing the
I may get Jason and Grace
Okay.
answer it.
So I believe that choosing subjects, first of all, you have to choose something that you really enjoy. most people tend to look at scaling as a major factor in the decision.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that scaling is necessarily a make or break factor for subjects. Instead, I think you should choose something that you like, and then naturally you'll do well in them. And also you have to try to keep in mind, if you're not too sure what you want to do, again, I would recommend keeping your options open with like very essential prerequisite subjects, such as, again, as we touched on, methods in chemistry. So yeah.
Great. Anything?
For me, I found that it was really important to choose like subjects and have a balance between them. So I did some humanities subjects, I did some maths and STEM subjects.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was just so that I wouldn't be too like bogged down by just doing like only maths or like only science or, you know, only history or something like that. So I feel like it was good for me personally to have like a
mix,
range,
yeah.
and also because, you know, the subjects that you do in unit 1, 2 aren't necessarily what you're stuck with in unit 3, 4. So I feel like a lot of people have a lot of stress over what they pick for year 11, but it's not like the be all and end all. So like I did switch a couple of my subjects at the end from year 11 to year 12.
Yeah.
And I think having that breadth just allowed me to like really understand what I enjoyed, like Jason said, and like it's easier to do better in like things you enjoy.
Yeah, so if you are still in year 9 and year 10, don't stress too much about choosing which VCE subjects. Thinking about what you are really interested in, and also, by the way, chemistry is indeed a scale up subject. If you consider, if you value this scaled up, then you should notice that. So moving on, another question for Grace and Jason: what was your biggest impression of VCE chemistry when entering year 11? How was the workload? Are there any change of ways of assessment?
For me, I feel like the change in assessment types was kind of the biggest difference for me, because in year 9, year 10, like just lower high school science, a lot of it is based off of like rote memory and just like like it's not so much application, but like we've been talking about, once you get into that VCE chemistry sphere, you have to really use a lot of like literary analytical skills. So that was kind of a hard adjustment to make. But I think once you get into the group, it's like it's okay. Yeah.
How about you?
Yeah, adding on to what Grace said, we found that the transition to VCE chemistry, on top of you having to understand a lot of the content and material, they require you to apply it in the context of different scenarios provided in the question and stuff. So then you really challenge your critical thinking skills. You have to use the content that you already know and apply it to the given scenario.
Thank you. So from a teacher's perspective, do you definitely agree on what they have said? Anything to add on to this shift of learning objectives from?
Yeah, so across year 7 to 10, chemistry students are learning about basically the atomic theory and balance equations. They were asked to repeatedly do those sort of learning, and students tend to find those sort of learning to be quite useless because they are very repetitive. But also coming to at year 11 chemistry level, you do realize that everything back then was for the purpose of building your basic knowledge about how and what is chemistry around you in your daily lives. So your attention to details, your observations to what's around you as a student, as someone that is just not being a student inside or outside a classroom is key. Okay, so don't just try to think that chemistry is about learning from the textbook, because chemistry is just all around the place. So yeah, that's how I think students are who are naturally interested. Okay, they have a greater attention to what's happening around them, and they have this curiosity of finding an answer to why would this happen instead of what's going to happen next. So try asking yourself a lot more whys. Okay, and yeah, so that's my
right. Thank you. So as Grace just mentioned, there's something like a gap between unit 1, 2, and 3, 4 studies. Is that the case for chemistry? And yeah, can you talk about
Well, I feel like unit 1, 2, and 3, 4 are not quite closely related. Maybe a little bit of content for organic chemistry that will be transferred over to unit 4, but actually everything learned in unit 3 will be a completely whole new topic and content. But what is required is the basics that you built in unit 1 and 2. So calculations, we will not go over how to calculate number of moles again, because that is working as a presumed knowledge. So students are required with that knowledge to go on to do unit 3, 4. So I won't say that it's a huge gap because something of you learning in year 11 at units 1, 2 will be the foundations of you being able to do unit 3, 4. But also content-wise, you are learning a whole new one. You won't be repeating the content you're learning in year 11 mostly. So you're learning a whole new content. Yeah. But the idea about how to apply chemical concepts will still apply. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Next questions, there are so many audience asking, is how can year 9 and year 10 students effectively prepare for the VCE chemistry? Shall we start with Jason?
I think because chemistry builds on the prerequisite knowledge that you have at the lower year levels, I think the best preparation that you can do is just to keep at it with your current studies in lower levels. A solid foundation will allow understanding of much harder content a lot more easier. So
Great. Kind of building off what Jason said, like don't stress too much about it. Like don't stress too much about like the work you're doing in year 9 and 10. Like it's obviously very, very important. But I think from those lower year levels, what's the most important is building on your study techniques, your like study habits, and just making really good habits, because obviously habits are really hard to break. So if you're making bad habits in year 9 and 10, it's going to be harder to break once you get into year 11 and 12. So having a good foundation in both the like knowledge sense and also like your mentality is really important.
Yes, definitely. It does not only apply to chemistry, apply to everything. Do you have anything to add on?
I think they have covered most of the key points. So building consistency is what you need to do right now if you're in year 7 across to year 10, because having to deal you need to be doing a lot more subjects at year 11 and 12. So having a good time management and organization skills is something that you should be looking at and building at a younger year levels as well.
Yes, definitely about time management, everything. So the next questions will be, so there are many audience from year 7 and below. They ask about how to prepare for VCE chemistry. I think that's a bit too early, right? Yes, just adding on what they said, having a good study habit, have a routine of revising and doing some extra work will always be good. The next question will be to Grace and Jason. Obviously, you both did so great in chemistry. Do you have any insights for studying this subject? For example, let's begin with, what do you enjoy or dislike in the subject?
I enjoyed that once you got to like VCE in chemistry, there was a lot more like, I think, freedom in what you're learning. Specifically at my school, I'm not sure if it was the same with Jason's, but there was kind of a choice of like, you set your goals of how well you want to do, of what objectives you want to meet, and then you do the work to meet that goal. So, you know, it puts less stress on you that way. And what else did I like about VCE chemistry? I also really liked having like a good group of like friends to study with. I feel like having a good like study partner in both like your day school and also your tutoring school is really helpful to keep motivated. Like I was really lucky that was the same friend for me. But yeah, I feel like even you had like David in last year's class working together. So like it's really good to like keep yourself motivated. And
Well, for me, my favorite part about VCE chemistry was definitely the shift into more application. I was able to see like the purpose of why I was learning
Okay.
the things that I thought was useless back in lower levels, and I was
Okay.
starting to see the real world applications and how chemistry is all around us even right now. Yeah, and I really enjoy the process of being able to link my knowledge to things that I can that I use every single day, and I found that very interesting.
Yeah, both of you are higher achieving students, but do you have any struggle in chemistry?
Losing motivation was very
Um,
very hard, because obviously it's a pretty difficult subject,
Mm.
even though you say the exams are easy. It's a pretty difficult subject, so losing motivation is definitely a difficult one. But if you set your goals and kind of like, as I said before, having people to support you was really important, to push you along the way.
Yeah, for me it was quite demoralizing in the sense that
Oh.
no, it was demoralizing in that chemistry requires the students to focus a lot on the detail, and then sometimes missing a word or two can lose you the entire mark despite writing the entire paragraph. So sometimes that can be a little bit demoralizing, but once you get the hang of it, it's all fine.
Yeah. Right. So obviously chemistry, you have your SAC and your final year exams. So how did SAC work in your schools respectively? Can you share a bit about that? And also, how do you prepare for your SAC and final exams? Tips?
Well, my SACs for my school, from the start of the year to the end of the year, they kind of progressed in the sense that it was going from like some multiple choice, some shorter answer questions to more longer answer questions and reports.
Okay.
So I think that's like about the building of your skills and your like analytical skills. So that's how the SACs progressed in my school, and I'm sure it was similar for you.
Well,
Maybe.
For me, our school for the SACs, I felt like the difficulty of every single SAC was around the same, in that they sort of throw you into the deep end at the very beginning. But then I found that it allowed me to get used to the model that they operate in VCE, and then how you're assessed in this chemistry subject. So I guess pros and cons of both.
So I suppose it like depends on the school. Yeah.
Yes. So how do you prepare for SACs? Do you have something to share?
Well, for me, it was definitely just consistent effort to make sure I wasn't falling behind and staying on top of the content. So then the consistent effort and constant practice basically made it so I didn't have to cram anything before SACs. Helped me with my mental health as well, and staying focused during the SACs. So definitely, I think a great habit and consistency is definitely essential to the success of your SACs.
Good. So I've got a question from Cherry, who is in year 10. How much time did you dedicate to chemistry? And did you prioritize it, or is chemistry a...
I don't think they're prioritizing.
Well, personally, chemistry, I definitely spent quite a bit of time on it. In that, I felt like chemistry was one of my weaker subjects, so I decided to spend more time on it. I would say every week I spend around, besides swap back, just during like everyday school during year 12, I probably spent around 6 to 8 hours a week, probably.
Okay. Look at the surprise.
I was not the same. I kind of just did like, I went to my classes. In like my study periods, I would consolidate my notes.
Yeah.
Every now and again, I would review them, and then before a SAC, I'd just make sure I knew this like the content, and then that was kind of it.
So making notes and reviewing it is actually a very good habit.
Yeah, reviewing it like 10 minutes every couple of days, I think is better than like cramming.
Yeah.
Because at least you have that constant consolidation, and it's better for your long-term memory rather than short-term memory.
But I also understand that how the classes spend a lot of time during swap back.
During
September holidays.
That's when we actually started to do lots of
Yeah.
Yes.
True. So next question. we've got a question from Ray. He's already in year 11. Any recommended exercise book for chemistry?
Maybe you should answer this.
Yeah.
Well, checkpoints, but also, well, the reason why we recommend checkpoints is because that it has, it's very compact. It has collected many of the past year exam questions from VCA, which are really classic in addressing that particular topic, but also commercial papers such as NEEP. TSSM, I won't go straight to TSSM, or unless you want to build the foundations, but NEEP is always good for challenging yourself, and also the paper that students hated the most, Lisa Chem. But Lisa Chem, it's a different sort of practice, because Lisa Chem, the level of difficulty provided by Lisa Chem is nowhere close to VCA. So the reason why I would recommend students to do a little bit of Lisa Chem is to actually expose themselves to different types of questions, and that's it. Okay, but don't demoralize yourself because, well, if you can't do a Lisa Chem paper, because that is how that's not what VCA will expect students to be able to do. But also at QS, we do provide students with booklets of exam papers that is commercial. Yeah, 2 booklets of that thickness. Right,
and not A4, it was A5.
Yeah, A5.
2 pages per page.
Yeah, so in my memory, it was 22 commercial papers with VCA papers as well, and also definitely do the notes and hand paper before your actual exam, because that is always a good indication about what you will be expecting on your day of actual exam. So yeah, that will be sufficient. And also, if you want to build the basics, always go with textbook questions.
Okay, so we got some demonstration of the trial papers, looking very familiar.
Yeah, so that's this big. And so the papers are downsized, so there are, well, you can see 2 pages per A4 size page. Yeah, so but it's really useful because I think it works as a very good consolidation for students at the very end.
Thank you. So for the year 9s and 10s, if you have not familiar with all these commercial paper names, don't worry. You can always rewatch this session on YouTube later if you want to do some papers, challenge yourself. Okay. So next question is for Yan. As we all know, VCE is a ranking system. What are your suggestions to the students who would like to achieve 40+ roll score? What are the key skills required for success in VCE chemistry?
Okay, so this can be a very common question across all of the subjects of VCE, but the ranking system in chemistry works as how first you are ranked in school sacks, and students, teachers will actually predict you for a potential score in terms of A, B, C, or D. So A+ is involved as well. And then you will see how yourself perform in the whole entire cohort on your exams. And then it's a very complicated system of ranking. But what I would suggest is that if you want to achieve a 40 and above, you need to get 100% and A+ on your exams, which works as 80% and above for your actual paper. So the paper itself, it's about 120 marks. And so to do that, you will be quite comfortable in the range of 100 and above in getting an A+. But that range of A+ is shift every year. But if that is your goal of getting 40 and above, A+ is a need for your final exams. And in saying that, I do see students how if they have a B+ for their school SACs, okay, but ended up having an A+ on exam, they will still get 40 and above. So school SACs matter, but also it does not matter as much as the final year exams. So, but also definitely get yourself confident in doing well at school SACs will boost your confidence of doing well in the final exams as well.
Yes, thank you. Jason, you are working as a QS science tutor this year, supporting Yan. And also you've been collecting student SAC date and also the topics, blah, blah, blah. And what do you find are the most common mistakes the students have?
Well, I think Ms.
Mm,
Chang's doing a very good job guiding them.
yeah.
But for like common mistakes I see in general is that most people tend to see chemistry as a content-heavy subject. So then they just focus on understanding, memorizing the content and don't do much practice. But I think especially for VCE,
Yeah.
practice in chemistry is essential in your success because they, again, as we touched on, they use the knowledge that you currently have and they force you to apply it to certain scenarios within the real world. And it requires a lot of critical thinking, familiarizing yourself with the way they mark and the words they're expecting to see, the keywords. So yeah, I definitely think just consolidating your content knowledge is not enough, and
Right.
you need practice in order to succeed in chemistry.
Thank you for your suggestion. So if a student is really struggling with chemistry, how do you help them? For you and yeah.
Well, I would make sure that they understand the concept first, the content, and then try to guide their thinking in the thinking so that they can arrive at the correct answer. I don't think it's a great practice to give them the answer straight away. I think it is very important to guide their thinking so then they will know how to do a similar question next time.
Yeah.
And from my observation, working with Jason, is that I do think that sometimes we work with different approaches. So we have, say, a particular questions that may have multiple ways of solving it. And my experience have taught me to teach the students in this particular way, but Jason may have a different way that connects the students a lot easier, and that's how he will come in to help. So I think we work quite well in that sense, and also guiding students who are struggling with the content. I will get them to review. Well, most of the content was a carried forward content from Unit 1 or 2.
Right.
So I would specifically address that to students to say which particular topic or chapter from that textbook do you need to go back to, and so have a read. And also I think reading a textbook is really important in chemistry because that during the process of reading, it builds your literacy skills of being critical in analyzing a question, but also responding using the right key terms that the textbook has directed students. Yeah. So yeah,
getting the basics clear.
yeah,
and
getting the
reading.
basics and you will be fine.
Yes, right. Thank you. Next question is also for Yan. So how chemistry learning is structured in QS? We have our VCE prep science course in the first term of the year, and then chemistry preparation at the end of the year. It's a term 4 course, and also we have Unit 1, 2, and then finally Unit 3, 4. So how can you, because you are the material in charge of material and everything, can you give us a deeper explanation about how it's structured?
Yeah, so for chemistry, for science prep in term 1, we tend to go through lots of the content as students have learnt across year 7 to 10, and then we will go a little bit more in depth about the content they will be learning in year 11. And in term 4 in particular, we'll start going through the basics of Unit 1 chemistry, and this is for the purpose of students building the basics, and then they'll be feeling more confident in doing year 11 chemistry when they are at the level. So one thing about chemistry is that, yeah, like Grace has mentioned at the start, mentality that counts. Okay, so you need to be confident in your learning in order to do well for tests or for SAC or exams. So boosting students, we boost students' confidence by preparing them really, really well. And also in year 11 and in year 11 chemistry, we go through the course in about 2 to 3 terms, and then we will revise for the whole lot of Unit 1 and 2, and then we will spend the last 5 to 6 weeks of term 4 doing a head start on year 12 chemistry. Yeah, and we will be in that period, we'll be particularly talking about redox chemistry because that was the topic that most students struggle with in year 12. And also in year 12, we do that whole entire learning thing in the first 2 terms. and then we'll come back to consolidate everything again by doing commercial papers. And so by the end of September holiday, students will be leaving QS with quite a lot of confidence.
Yeah, thank you so much for the detailed explanation. And also, we got some questions from year 7 below and year 8 students. So which year shall we start to learn chemistry, or what is the best time to start tuition for chemistry? Yeah. I think that really varies from person to person.
Yeah, exactly. So to do well in anything, it's your intrinsic motivation that counts. You can't possibly do well in a subject that you hate, okay, or you have the resistance to learn about. So instead of having a tutoring or tuition starting at a very young age, why don't you try doing some backyard science, okay, experiments at home, get yourself to be interested with the subject itself instead of getting external help. Okay, try helping yourself first to see how you can intrinsically motivate yourself. And it's about self-regulation as well. So you can't possibly do something well, okay, with anyone pushing you from the back. Okay, you don't force yourself into doing a subject, but finding your natural interest.
Yeah, anything to add on to this, Jason, please?
Yeah, I definitely think motivation is a big thing. In that, you can't really learn well if you're not willing to learn well. It's jumping into the deep end too early can deteriorate you. Possibly enjoying chemistry.
Yeah.
So
Because you don't want to get burnt out by the, like if you're constantly doing it and doing it over and again. And also like the study design's probably going to change anyway.
That's true.
Exactly.
So it might be something completely different that you're learning a couple years down the track. So
Don't worry too much. So next questions. What's the difference between VCE and IB chemistry? As again, you're now teaching about a bit IB in your day school. So can you tell us some key differences?
All the key difference is that how IB chemistry is a much faster paced subject now. So you may be surprised by how much content you're doing year 11 IB chemistry. You're pretty much doing the whole 2-year VCE courses in just 1 year. And then you will repeat that again in year 12. So what you're going to learn in year 11 at VCE will not be tested on your exams in year 12, but that is not the case for IB chemistry. For example, Schrödinger's model is going to be on year 12 IB chemistry again, and that will be more in-depth, whereby you'll be talking about hybridization, lots more combinations of orbitals and all that. So in year 11, you learn the basics, but in year 12, you get to choose between standard level or high level chemistry. So for high level chemistry, you will be learning about more of a year 1 chemistry at uni, and standard level will just be very similar to what you're going to learn about at year 12 VCE chemistry. And lots of written work will be involved. You have this internal assessment that we call the IAs, whereby you have to design an experiment, you have to collect data, very similar to what we do in Unit 4, area of study 3 outcome, but that is going to be a lot more time consuming. So that will be about a whole term. Okay, you'll be start preparing that from year 11, and you'll be writing a much longer prac report, and that'll be marked on the very, very details. So not just about the content, you'll be marked about how you collect your data, how your results table will look like, how your trend of table, how the trend of results will look, should be graphed. Okay, every small details in IB chemistry will count. And also data books. VC chemistry have a very clear and straightforward data books, for which it's about 17 pages long, something like that. But IB chemistry is about 40 something pages long in terms of data books.
Wow.
So lots of information, and you need to be really confident in using that guide and helping you. So well, yes, I say lots of written work and a lot more working hours will be involved for chemistry. And also do keep in mind that you can't do 2 subjects. For example, VC, you can't do a 3-4 at year 11. Okay, IB chemistry, you have to do all of the 6 subjects at year 12. So you need to do well in that time management.
Right. Sounds like IB chemistry is more intense than VC.
For standard level chemistry, it's quite similar to what we do in VC, but high level chemistry, it's a little bit.
Too.
Yeah, they have 2 standards. and they have different boundaries. But yeah, it depends on how students see themselves in choosing a career pathway. But it doesn't mean that it scales you up more. Or IB doesn't do that scaling at the moment. Yeah, so it doesn't make you a difference, but it's purely depending on your interest of doing chemistry.
So for the content wise, VCE chemistry and bio, do they have most of them overlap or?
Yeah, most of them are overlapping. So especially standard level IB chemistry, it's pretty much the same content that we're doing in VCE. Okay, just different calculation units. Say volume is no longer calculated in liters. Volume could be calculated in dm cube. Okay, so small changes like that, but the content will not change too much for standard level. Yeah.
So if you do VCE prep science, chemistry, and chemistry preparation, you can still do IB chemistry.
Yeah,
right?
that will actually apply more to your IB chemistry because everything we do in VCE prep will be tested in year 12 on IB chemistry.
Right.
But everything we do in prep, that will be a lead into unit 1 chemistry for which will not be tested on the exams of year 12.
Thank you so much, that information. So next question for Jason. As a tutor in QS, how do you think students can make better use of the resources provided by everyone?
Well, first of all, we have lots of channels for support. We have the WeChat group chats where you can just put your question there and somebody will be there to answer. And then we have plenty of time in class for you to work and ask your questions as well. So first of all, I would just say, just ask questions. Please don't hold back and ask your questions. And also, I also run a study hub on Tuesday nights, which is completely free and online. So it's really accessible. In study hub, you can come in and ask any question or ask us to go through any topic you're unfamiliar with. So please make use of that as well.
Yeah, Jason is the co-host of Study Hub. He can also support you with maths as well, especially, and also sciences, physics, chemistry, everything Jason is capable of doing. So yeah, welcome everyone. Next question to Grace. So what were the most helpful aspects of your class last year? And do you have any suggestions to the current chemistry students if they want to get the most of the class?
I feel like also kind of related to Jason, like also just asking questions. I feel like it was really good to ask questions about like SACs.
Yeah.
And because Miss Jung is a very good chemistry teacher. And also at her day school, so she has knowledge of how like SACs go, how we're marked on SACs, and like the points we need to touch on when we answer questions. So I feel like taking like advantage of that teacher's perspective was really good in making sure you kind of hit all of those necessary points and get all the marks for the effort that you put in. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We have only one question left. So if you have any questions in your mind, just put that in the Q&A section. We'll go back to your questions after this one last question. So we got Charlotte asking about organic chemistry. Please go over this topic a bit if you can. So
it's a huge topic
to
go over that.
Any other key terms, or how do you suggest? Give her some tips for excel in this topic.
Well, organic chemistry is the easiest aspect of chemistry, just memorizing. My tips of doing organic chemistry is to first learn about covalent bonding. So know what covalent bonding is before you start doing organic. But organic is about memorization. Okay, just memorize everything you can, know your pathway, do your mind maps, do your summary notes, and if you ask about inorganic, there'll be a huge topic to explain. But organic, that's as straightforward as it can. Yeah, memorize. Yeah,
right. So now I'm going into your questions in the Q&A section. Amanda asked, other than ATAR notes and Cambridge checkpoint, is there any other resources to do the practice?
Anyone? I do think there are more resources, but if you're talking about your day schools, your teachers should have past tests. I will be using lots of Pearson worksheets, topic tests from commercial companies, and yeah, that's how we will approach. But also talking about commercial papers, you can't have that access on your own. That has to be purchased through someone working at a school and the school itself. So you need to go through your old teachers at a day school in order to have access to those.
Great, thank you. Next one, how important is chemistry unit 1-2 compared to chemistry 3-4? Is it okay if I don't fully understand chemistry now and still continue to do chemistry 3-4? Just as Grace just said, can you answer this question again?
Sure. Well, like obviously the jump from year 10 to year 11 chemistry is quite difficult. So,
Right.
you know, it's difficult to grapple, and it's normal to feel like you're kind of like out of your depths and to feel like it's very difficult. I definitely felt like that. But I think the transition from 1-2 to 3-4 chemistry is actually easier than from year 10 to year 11. So as long as you think that you are willing to put in some effort, then I think that you should be fine. You'll be fine. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, also to add on top of that, if you are not fully understanding chemistry right now at 1-2, do the following topics so that you know and confident for unit 3-4. And that will be the topic on quantifying atoms. So that's the calculations of number of moles, okay, covalent bonding, intermolecular forces, okay, and then organic chemistry. And a little bit of calculations on concentration and volumetric analysis in unit 2. Okay, but if you are currently in year 11, I don't think you have touched base on the volumetric analysis yet. But if that is the case, you need to focus on those 5 topics when, during your holidays, so that you are fully prepared for year 12.
Yes, thank you. Next one, since we have 6 subjects, roughly how often should I spend studying chemistry in a week for at least a study score of 35? That's very specific. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends. It also really depends on how the cohort performs.
Yeah.
So if everyone in that year doing chemistry studies so hard, okay, then you need to put in a lot more effort to get to 35, because 35 throughout B in across the state. Okay, so yeah, so in order to do that, you shouldn't be aiming for a 35, you should be aiming for a 40. Okay, so that you get a 35 in that case. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. A question for Miss Zhang. Please introduce chemistry-related contests such as Chemistry Olympiad in Australia. Are lots of students involved, like Maths Olympiad? Do Grace and Jason have any chemistry competition experience?
The big science competition. Did you ever do that?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember doing that. Or like ICAS science. That's kind of it. I don't remember any other ones.
Yeah.
So,
Actually, I do coach a little bit of chemistry Olympiad at my day school at the moment, but what they do in chemistry Olympiad is nothing related to VCAL, especially if you're interested in doing VCE chemistry, because there's a whole lot of high level IB and also year 1 chemistry related. And they do offer courses at the University of Melbourne on every Monday for 14 weeks. So that's an extensive course that will prepare students for chemistry Olympiad. So if you are interested, I think that application has now closed, but try applying for that next year if you are interested. So that UniMel runs an extensive weeks of revision for preparing students for chemistry Olympiad, but you have to pay for it. But also the content covered in the chemistry Olympiad will not apply to your exams.
thank you so much. Next one, if I wanted to do chemistry tutoring for units 1, 2, and 3, 4, would it be harder to adapt? Never done tutoring before.
So is that never having done chemistry tutoring before, or just altogether?
It didn't mention, but let's assume it's all together.
I think it will be fine because I started taking classes here in year 12, and yeah, I found it was extremely helpful, and I was able to cope fairly easily. So I definitely think yeah, it will be fine.
And also remember, like, tutoring isn't meant to be like more homework. It's meant to supplement what you're learning in school.
Yeah.
So like if you feel like you're falling behind in school, don't like drop it all to the tutoring. The tutoring is meant to support you. So you can ask your tutor for help. And I think it's really helpful. Even, yeah, I don't think there wouldn't be a difficulty to adapt to being tutored.
Anything else to add? And I think that's all good from Grace and Jason. Yeah.
Right. So is Study Hub only for QS students? No, we're open to everyone, but it's only for VCE students, right? If you're doing any VCE kind of level of questions, maths and science is welcome to join every Tuesday, 6:30 to 8:30. Jason is one of the hosts, and also we have Gary as well. So these two guys are running this Study Hub. Welcome everyone. So I think that's it. Do you have any other questions? I think we answered everyone's question. Yeah, so we still have 5 minutes left. If you
There's
have
one more
a
question. Emma.
really? Okay. Oh, where do we find Study Hub? So there's a link that we share every week in the group chats. So if you are in any of the QS VCE information sharing groups or anything, you can see the link. You can also find our contact number on the QS school website. So feel free to call us or drop a line. We're really happy to help. Okay, so one last question. Are there any books you recommend on how to effectively build study habits?
You read.
Mine wasn't books. Mine was like YouTube videos,
Good.
or like podcasts. I
Yeah.
really love podcasts. But like they're generally the same tips, like being organized. I found one really useful was like buying a planner and blocking out pretty much every like chunk of time that I had. But I also factored in like rest periods. So like I feel like being really organized in that sense with your time was like my biggest thing that I got from like my podcast and my YouTube, but no books.
What's some podcast name that you can
I
recommend?
don't have
You
any
can
on the top of my head, but
Okay.
just like look it up. Like
Yeah.
there's so much information out there.
Search up the keywords
Yeah.
on YouTube.
Yes.
Yeah, Jason.
For me, I didn't really outsource anything for study habits. So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have any recommendations for
Okay.
books or stuff.
You're just a natural good student. Right. Yeah, you have any?
Well, talking about study habits, you don't have to make yourself sit down every day for straight 5 hours to do revision. That won't be practical. Set small goals. Say reading the textbook for 10 minutes today and spend another 20 minutes working through the questions. Okay, but make it consistent. So don't set big goals that you yourself can't complete. Yeah, so that will with the accumulation of number of incomplete tasks, you will be really dropping off that habit of doing studies on a daily basis. But so do small goals and do it consistently.
Yeah, definitely. A small change every day will eventually make a huge change. So that reminds me of the book Atomic Habits.
Oh,
yeah.
It was quite popular and very helpful.
Oh, that
for
could
me
be a
too.
book if it can
There
read.
you go, they can read
Yeah, Atomic
Atomic
Habits.
Habits is good. From
And that's chemistry related.
yeah.
Atomic.
So yeah, that's our answer. So we have 2 minutes left. Are there any last minute questions? Welcome. So if there's
Very well management of time.
Thank you. Yeah, so if there's nothing else, I think we'll just call it a night. So thank you so much for coming and so many helpful information. And I believe everyone has gotten so much out of tonight's session. So yeah, thank you. And we will see you next time about not chemistry, maybe some other subjects. Just follow us closely about what we were doing. So thank you so much for coming and who stayed until this point. So see you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Good night.